Max Verstappen is blessed with an incredible amount of talent, and thanks to the harsh lessons of his father, he has become the most skilled driver on the grid today. What if I told you that this amazing combination of talent and skill could also be a curse? That's what today's video is about. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. After winning 4 championships in a row, there's no denying that he's one of the all-time greats in Formula 1. He's won titles under very hard and challenging circumstances, and he's won and dominated under less challenging circumstances. One thing is always visible, and that's his amazing skill to drive his car with magnificent speed and precision. He amazed fans with his driving from the moment he set foot on the grid in 2015 in a Toro Rosso. After some very normal mistakes, especially in 2018, he became very consistent and managed to get wins in each season, even when the Red Bull package and especially the Renault engines were poor. One thing that we keep hearing over and over is that Max Verstappen can handle cars that other drivers can't. His ability to drive a car with a loose rear, as they like to call it, is something that has destroyed almost all of his former teammates in the past. I'm not a YouTuber who dives into the technical side much, but from paying attention to other videos and reading interviews, it's clear what Max Verstappen prefers and what he can deal with. I'll try to describe it as I understand it. Verstappen likes a super responsive front end on his car, meaning it turns in faster. This helps him get the car straightened out quicker during corners, so he can hit the throttle earlier and accelerate faster if there's enough grip, of course. If this isn't correct, I'm sure I'll read about it in the comments. The downside, the rear end can break loose and get a bit out of control, but Verstappen's talent is that he can handle that nervous back end and make it work for him. Unfortunately for his teammates, they usually can't cope with this. And what we've seen over the last 4 seasons with Sergio Perez is that at the start of the season, the Red Bull cars had qualities that suited the Mexican better. Still, after the upgrades, it moved away from him and more towards what Verstappen likes. A now very famous explanation that Alex Albon used to describe what it was like to drive Max's cars was that it felt like you were playing a computer game with the mouse set to the highest sensitivity, and that if you blew on the steering wheel, it would turn. It made him a little slower at first, but his confidence kept going down as the season progressed, and then driving in a flow state became impossible. So this describes the scale of what Max Verstappen is capable of. Besides being super aggressive when he needs to be, and very precise, knowing to read races and always sharp, he can make an undrivable car for a teammate look fast. And that's where the curse of Max's talent comes in. In 2021, Pierre Wache, Red Bull's technical director, said he was annoyed with how things went in 2020. He said that if they'd noticed the flaws of the RB16, they would have been able to beat the mighty W11 of Mercedes. Now, that's quite a statement, as the Mercedes package was unholy dominant for many years. Then again, if he says so, I have to believe he felt that way. In another long interview, he talked about Max Verstappen and his ability to drive around issues and his ability to drive an unstable car. Here are a few quotes from that motorsport interview. We started that year, 2020, not far off Mercedes. Then we had a massive down in the middle of the season before coming up again. We went in the wrong direction, and we recovered. That's where we missed something in our analysis in terms of development direction. The car had a characteristic which Max liked, and which allowed him to go faster, and so as we went further down this path, his lap times would improve. But it brought with it some instability on entry. And eventually you come to a point where that's the limiting factor and you cannot go any faster. It also made the car very difficult for the other drivers. So this is what Albon struggled with. And this is what he referred to in the explanation about the sensitivity of the car. Now, the second driver not performing doesn't have to be a problem, as we saw in 2022 and 2023. But in 2024, Red Bull missed out on the Constructors' Championship due to Perez struggling with exactly the same thing. Wache went on to explain what the curse of Verstappen's talent is in cases like this. He can control this sort of instability that would be impossible for some others. We know that sometimes making a car on the edge in this way, we can create a quicker car and you don't realize you went into the wrong direction because you're still extracting more lap time from the car. But you don't realize it at first, only because he has so much talent. So you keep going in this direction, but you go too far. And it takes you a few months to come back from that and realize you'd gone in the wrong direction. You'd think that Wache and Red Bull would have learned their lesson from what happened in 2020. That perhaps you need to listen to the other driver too sometimes. Or a guy like Adrian Newey. But in 2024, it happened again. In 2024, Red Bull had a great start and won 7 races out of the first 10. There were problems with riding bumps and curbs, and the drivers complained about the balance, but since they were still winning, they didn't want to alter the car too much. It was again Verstappen who managed to still be fast despite the problems. But when McLaren found pace, and then Ferrari as well, the Red Bull package dropped off compared to the rest, and even with the healthy lead the Dutchman had, things got tense. We all know Max Verstappen managed in the end, but it could have gone wrong. Adrian Newey, who left Red Bull to join Aston Martin, said it was a lack of experience that made his former team make the decisions they made. I've also read articles about how Newey wasn't happy with certain parts of the car. We don't know if that's why he left, but it could have played a role, no doubt. Christian Horner talked about how the information from the wind tunnel didn't correlate with what happened with the car on track, which is something we usually hear from Toto Wolff. Max Verstappen said he warned them about the instability, but not much was done, until the car became too hard to drive even for him. And that brings us full circle back to the problem, the curse. Max Verstappen still dragging a faulty design to places where it shouldn't be has hampered development again. So what now? The 2025 season has all the ingredients to be a banger. Lots of capable drivers in strong teams at the end of a set of regulations with all the cars close to each other in performance. I honestly can't wait. One thing gives me hope as a Max Verstappen fanboy, and that is that after the 2020 season, the RB16B had none of the issues the previous car had. It was the fastest car at the start of the season, and Mercedes needed a flexi wing to become faster than Red Bull. A bit like McLaren in 2024. Lessons were learned from what happened in 2020, and I'm sure they will sort it out for 2025 as well. I'm convinced that a car with a good performance and a slightly bigger operating window will see Max Verstappen triumph again. I say make the operating window slightly bigger, as Wache already said he won't sacrifice performance to make drivers happy. He'll change stuff to make the technicians happy. Well, as long as Max is winning, I'm happy. Oh, and subscribe and whatever. Take care now. Doei doei.